Well, good morning, everyone. It's a great morning, sweaty morning for some of us. It's the humidity has been really hectic. Us big folks have been getting having a tough time of late. So if you have a pool to rent, please let us know. We'd love to come and meet you and have a dip in your pool. But so you guys are so welcome. If it's your first time here, special welcome to you. You are so welcome. In fact, we've actually set this morning up especially for you. Because, you know, our mission is quite simple. If you've been thinking, what are these guys up to? What are they doing? It's very simple. We want to inspire people to follow Jesus because we believe following Jesus does not just make you better at life, but also makes life better. So, a part of that life and something we're really passionate about is not just for people to attend church, but actually for people to become a part of what the church we believe should be. And a big part of that strategy is groups. So you saw this video, it's kind of like an intro video to our starting point program. It's, I don't want to say program, it's like a next step. So if you've been wondering about group or this is just intriguing, you want to know more, starting point is an environment where people can get kind of a taste, you know, put your big toe in the pool and kind of test the waters of what group life is. Those of you who are in group know it's worth it, but it can be quite a step for a lot of people. So this is kind of just the next step for people who want to check out group. So if you want to know more about Starting Point, or you want to sign up because we have in 1 or 2 weeks' time, we're going to start with our first Starting Point group of the year. You can go outside, not now, later. after the experience, you'll see the Starting Point sign at the back. We would love to get your details and we'll let you know what's next or what's the next step. All right. Then, also, next Sunday, I'll be talking a bit more about that. Next Sunday, we have our volunteer kickoff. You'll see everything that happens here is not, cannot be done without volunteers. Everything we do, not just here, but in the community, is done because of you guys, not because of us. So if volunteer kickoff, I'll be telling you a bit more about that, but keep in mind that's next Sunday. As for now, we are in part 3 of our series called Paper Walls. So if you missed one of the first 2 or missed both of the 2, you can go on our YouTube channel or on app and you can go and check the first 2 messages there. I just have to put out a disclaimer. Last week, Dirk said he said we're going to end today and Tian is going to bring the message. I just have to disclaim everything of what he said there is a lie. You will be glad to know that it won't be me bringing the message today. I'll bring in the big guns, so it'll be him. He's bringing our message today. So if you haven't met him, you'll meet him a bit later. And then we're also not ending the series today. We're only in the 3rd act now. So next week we'll be wrapping up the series. So invite someone if you like what you hear. You just think, there's this other person that needs to be there. My colleague really needs to hear this. Invite them. We'd love to meet them. All right. But for now, we're going to sing 3 songs. And then we'll go into the message. But I want to invite you to stand. As you stand, just say hello to someone you haven't said yet, or just give them a customary fist bump, and then we'll get going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who breaks the power? Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life who brings out chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter, the King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. Oh, you laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. We sing, worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. You are worthy, 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 Lord. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Jesus, I sing for all you've done for me. As we go to the next song, I just want to share with you guys, if this is new to you, don't worry. A lot of times when we sing, we praise God for who He is. And there's one main reason for that, is because when we proclaim who God is, not focusing on ourselves and focusing on who He is, all of a sudden everything takes perspective. All of a sudden what we've been struggling with, what we've been thinking about, what's been happening this week at work, just seems to fade away. Because there's this perspective of not just who we are, but who God really is. So we're going to sing the next song, and it's called He Is. And with the song, I want to invite you to open up your perspective. Let the words move your heart.
If you're troubled, heavy-hearted, come to Jesus and find your peace. If you're run down, empty-handed, come to Jesus and find your strength. He is hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is Jesus and find your way.
If you want freedom, need forgiveness, just come to Jesus and find His grace. Yes, hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is mending the broken, bearing the burdens, all that you need in He is. Comforter, counselor, Prince of Peace, author and maker of everything, defender, deliverer, King of kings. He is helper and healer forevermore, Savior and shelter through every storm, my refuge, Redeemer, and Lord of lords. He is child of heaven and Son of man, provider, protector, the great I am, Alpha, Omega, beginning and end. He is hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is mending the broken, bearing the burdens, all that you need in He is. All that you need in He is. All that you need in He is. You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. And all the joy I found, surrendering my crowns at the feet of the King, who surrendered everything, and all the peace that comes when I'm broken and undone by your unfailing grace. I can lift my voice and say, you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. Oh, the joy, and all the joy I've found, surrendering my crowns at the feet of the King, who surrendered everything, and all the peace that comes when heart that is now yours. You can have, oh, you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. This heart that is now There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. 'Cause you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. You guys can take a seat. Thank you very much. So as we were singing that song, there's something I want to, there's something that set into my heart around, and I love that bridge of that verse. There is no greater call than giving you my all. And this is big. And I want you to know this, is that God, and Wim will allude to this, don't worry, so you're going to hear it again, but God doesn't need more admirers. Jesus doesn't need more admirers. He needs doers. He needs followers. People that are willing to lay down themselves. People that are willing to lay down what their perception is, what stuff that they've maybe grown up with that's, some of them is good, some of them, needs to be left behind. But he needs followers, people who are willing to do what he says, to make a difference in this world. And I mean, it came from Jesus' own words. He said, he didn't come to this world to be served, but to serve. And what he was doing there was giving us a roadmap, a checkpoint to check on where we are at in our walk with God. Are we still being served, or are we ready to serve? Are we willing to lay down ourselves and take up what Jesus has given us? So a big part of that and is to serve, is to avail yourself for Jesus to use you. Now, I just want to share a bit of my story around this. This is a big part of my story, my faith journey. In fact, I would go as far as to say, me taking the step of God using me. He's saying, okay, God, here I am. I'm a boykie from PE that doesn't know a lot about church and this stuff, but use me. And can I tell you guys what the first place that I served was at the church where I was at? I was making coffee. Very bad coffee at that, because after 2 weeks they asked me, listen, isn't there other skills that you have that you know that we can give? But it wasn't about the coffee. Me just saying, I am willing. Here I am. Use me. I don't know what the consequences of my life would be if I had said no to that person who asked me to do the coffee. I didn't know what I would be missing out on looking down the line. I would not be knowing what I would be missing out on had I said no. You don't know what hangs in the balance of saying yes to God. So I want to share with you, and why am I sharing this with you? Because next week, Sunday, we have volunteer kickoff that I've just mentioned in the beginning. And volunteer kickoff, it's not about filling positions so that we can make this happen. Now, please realize that is not what this is about. It's an opportunity for you to avail yourself for God to do something through you. This is why we do this on a Sunday. It's for people to, maybe for the first time, in either a long time or for the first time ever, experience the love, the acceptance, the warmth that their Heavenly Father has to give. And sometimes we sit there and we say, oh God, no, I'll sit back and let God do the work. That's not how God works. You are the work. You are the hands and the feet. That means when you are His hands and feet, you go where He wants to go. You go do what He wants to do. So this is an opportunity for you to trust God. And here's the best thing, is you don't have to qualify. You don't have to qualify. Believe me, I was not qualified to make coffee. I just had a smile and a willing heart. So volunteer kickoff is, why volunteer kickoff? It is an opportunity for you to be used by God. So if you've been sitting here and you've been coming for a while, if you're new here and this is all new to you, no pressure on you. Don't worry. This is. I almost want to say this is not for you. You can take and enjoy and take in what we can do. But if you've been coming for a while and this is you're feeling okay, there's something more. I need something more. I need a next step. We're giving you a possible next step. So I want to invite you to come next Sunday. After the service, we're going to have volunteer kickoff. It's for everyone, people, guys that are already serving, that's thinking, maybe there's something new for me. Like when I was at the coffee, they said, hey, maybe you have other skills, my boot. And then they roped me in to fold up the cables, And that was something I could do a little better. Still not great at it, but I could do that. But there's something that you can do. So if you've been coming for a while, you've been a volunteer for a while, and you're thinking, yes, is there a way for God to use me? Is there a way that I can bring more of what God is? This is for you. And if you're wondering or you just want to check it out, see what all this is about, this is also for you. We're going to have a lot of fun. After the service, we'll be finished by 12, so you can... the aardappels is not going to burn in the wind, so don't worry about that. But I want to invite you to really take this next step. You don't know what hangs in the balance. You don't know what God wants to do through you to help someone else meet Him. So next week, volunteer kickoff. I hope to see you guys there after the service, right here. All right. But as for now, guys, enjoy Wim and part 3 of Paper Walls. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good morning. I had to, in the run-through, I actually had to ask them to clap for me. So thanks for doing that by yourself. I appreciate it. Well done, band. Tian, you guys did really well. It's a very tough act to follow as well, to stand here after they've been here. And just one thing, pro tip. If you ever go and visit Tian and Sunette makes coffee, Tian can make the tea. He makes phenomenal tea, but it's true about the coffee. There's not a word of a lie there. In any case, it's good to see so many of you here this morning, and thanks for coming and thanks for being here. You rocking up means that you've taken that first step, and God wants you to move. So yeah. Okay, let's go. For my other job, you know, the one that pays bills and that I actually, I've got a boss and everything. I get to do really cool stuff sometimes. I get to meet incredibly interesting people. I get to see parts of this country that I don't think everyone, necessarily gets to, which is really awesome. And one of these really cool things that I got to do is, I was at a conference called Africa Agritech in 2020. Which is phenomenal. I mean, the technology and the things guys are doing was just incredible. It really touched me. And there was a string of people doing their presentations and whatnot. And I rocked up home, and I tell my wife, I said, Jax, one day I want to be on that stage. I want to be able to tell someone what I've learned over the past 6 months or a year. I want to be on that stage and tell them my take on something that is maybe as mundane as lettuce. And well, lo and behold, God was listening, and he said, well, Wim, let's go. You can start with Waypoint and try there a little bit. So here I am. So thanks again for indulging me. So out of that perspective, when Tian asked me if I want to do this message this morning, he sent it on, and I read through it, and I thought, this is powerful stuff, and I'm really keen. I'm going to do it. I'm definitely going to do it. But about a week after that, the apprehension starts to grow. You start looking at these little excuses. And the apprehension, they grow quite quickly. But luckily, I'm a firm believer that God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. So I have to chat myself in. I'm like, Wim, remember, God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. He just needs you to move, so you're going to do this. But the apprehension, unfortunately, grows like a 13-year-old teenage boy. So I've got my 13 different excuses of why I can't be here this morning, why I won't be able to do this. And that's where we start this morning, because I don't know when we start lying to ourselves. I think it's pretty much the same, maybe it's when we take our first breath. Because I've got this 13 ridiculous excuses that are all actually lies. But you know what the funny thing is we can catch other people lying. I can catch other people lying to me. I can catch other people lying to each other. I can catch other people lying to themselves. But I can't catch myself lying to me. I lie to myself, and I can't catch myself out. And it's actually quite simple why that is. It's because we don't call the lies we tell ourselves lies. We call them reasons. Which is, you don't want to seem unreasonable, so you make up a reasonable excuse. I was late this morning because of traffic. There's load shedding, and there's 4 or 5 robots that's not working, and that's why I'm late. That's a reasonable excuse, don't you think? I mean, people can relate to that. We all work with that. We all got load shedding. But is it the truth? No. I was late this morning because I was lying in bed, gallivanting on Twitter and Instagram, twiddling thumbs and just, not wanting to get up. That's why I'm late, not because of load shedding. And you can fill in anything here, really. The reason I blew my gasket is because this person did this and that. The reason why I don't eat better is because I don't have time to cook healthy. The reason why I'm staying or leaving that person, ... The reason why I'm always under financial pressure, ... Do you see what happens? We start making up excuses, and we call them reasons. We can also call them becauses. You know, our reasons become our excuses. And the thing is, they're actually just a front for the actual root cause. The actual truth about yourself that you don't want to face. The reason I blew my gasket is because I don't have my temper under control yet. It's something I need to work on. The reason why I don't eat better is because nobody likes Brussels sprouts. And the Burger King is just across the road, and I mean, there's Uber Eats always. Yeah, even if it takes an hour and a half. The reason why I'm staying with that person is because I don't think I deserve better. The reason why I'm always under financial pressure is because I don't save when I need to. Do you see when our reasons become excuses? Do you see how our excuses become becauses? And maybe we should call it like others see it. Because it's easy for me to see when you are lying to yourself. It's easy for me to see when you are lying to the person standing next to you. But again, it's not so easy when we lie to ourselves. And this is where we start this week 3 with paper walls. Moving beyond the excuses that hold us back. From one season to the next, I mean, the start of January, we can say 2022 was a season. We're going into 2023, that's a new season. From one season to the next, there's things that we have to put in your backpack and you have to take with you. Good relationships, good habits, you know, those are the things that you should be taking with you. Then there's things that we have to leave behind. We have to leave them in 2022. And they are going to be our excuses, reasons, or becauses. We need to leave them behind us because they're like paper walls, you know. From standing from far, you see this wall and it looks impenetrable. But when you get close to it and you really just look at it analytically, you can see that it's just a piece of flimsy paper. You have to move through it. You have to work through it. So, we can call them what we want. Excuses, reasons, becauses, paper walls. Remember my 13 reasons why I couldn't stand here this morning? Each and every one of them was a very flimsy paper wall. Each and every one of those excuses didn't have a basis in reality. It was all lies that I was telling myself or believing about myself. Why don't you start? Why haven't you? Why don't you finish? Why did you give up? The why questions are endless, but they actually are just excuses masquerading as a cause. And that's why in this series we're asking, is it possible that you've walled yourself in? That you've walled yourself in away from good relationships, away from opportunities or good health? Is it possible that someone labeled you as something or told you something or said something about you that you've started to believe, and this is a flimsy paper wall that's keeping you away from moving forward in terms of personal growth, from moving forward spiritually, from just, taking opportunities when they're there. And over time, it's entirely possible that this flimsy paper wall that's an excuse, a reason, or a because becomes your king. And we all know sitting here this morning that you can't serve two kings. You can't have excuses being Lord of your life and you can serve Jesus. And that's why we're talking about it in church. That's why we're talking about excuses in church. It's because you can't follow Jesus and have this king called excuses. Contrary to what we like to believe, our lives are not in different boxes. We don't have a work box, a church box, a training box, and a health box. They are all interlinked. They all link up with each other. So bad decisions or bad excuses in one area of your life, 9 out of 10 times lead to bad excuses in other areas of your life. If you make bad decisions in terms of if you make a bad financial decision or a bad health decision, it steals your credibility. People draw conclusions about you from the decisions that you've made. If you don't have good relationships, people draw conclusions about you, about what type of person are you? Who are you really? So excusing overreactions will impact your relationships. Making excuses for bad financial and health habits erodes your credibility. You see how this all links up with each other. And here's the thing, there's a single excuse or reason or because. That's a lie. See, they're all the same thing. Excuses or reasons or becauses are lies. That you tend to believe, that's walling you in. It's keeping you away from a lot of good, a lot of things in your life, and it's keeping you from following Jesus. And when we follow Jesus through the Gospels, through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you will discover that Jesus is constantly leading people out of the darkness and into the light. But the light can be terrifying. It can be scary, it can be embarrassing, but it can also be liberating. The lies that hold you back are just that. They are reasons, excuses, becauses. Believing that I have a short temper leaves me in the dark on how much better my relationships could be. Remember Proverbs 15, a gentle answer deflects anger. Eating unhealthily leaves me without the ability to enjoy creation, to see how creative God really is, to be able to spend time in God's creation. Staying in a bad relationship keeps me away from moving into a relationship where we both give 100%, where we are a little bit of Jesus to each other, where that person can see Jesus in me and I can be Jesus to her. Not being a good steward of what God gave you will keep you from experiencing the absolute joy of helping someone in need, because you've got the ability to do that. Do you see how your lies and your decisions and your excuses keep you away from following Jesus? And this is the thing. We can't see the things that erode our credibility. We can't see the excuses that we make as excuses. Has anyone ever told you, can't you see what this is doing to you? Has that ever happened to you where someone said that to you? It happens to us because we can't see the excuses as what they are, lies. But luckily, over 2,000 years ago, in the good book called the Bible, Jesus says the following. It goes to John 8, verse 12. It says, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. I am the light of the world. Who would say such a thing? Who would make such a claim? Except if it was Jesus. And just to think if it's true, just to think if Jesus is the light of the world, and he came for that specific reason. He came for me and for you to move us from darkness and into the light. He came to shed light on your becauses so that you can become all that he has created you to be. He has created you in your mother's womb with so much creativity and love to be so much more, to break through a flimsy paper wall, to move into relationships that's worthwhile, to grow spiritually, to be a good steward. God has so much more for us in store if we start to follow him and know that he is the light of the world. Then he goes on and he says, whoever follows me. And on this, I would like to just link up with Tian. Our mission at Waypoint is to inspire people to follow Jesus. He's invited people not to believe in him. As Tian said, God has enough admirers. There's a whole army of angels worshiping him day and night. Your admiration for God and for Jesus, it's not going to change the world. He needs you to follow him. To change the world, you need to follow him. You guys know what's coming? Well, you obviously know what's coming, because if Jesus is the light of the world, whoever follows me will never walk in darkness but will have the light of life. Jesus is saying, I want to light up the parts of your life that you are trying to hide. I want to break down your paper walls and move with you. Jesus is saying, come along now, come with me, and let's move through these paper walls. In any case, unfortunately, this is not where the story ends, because we go to verse 13. Ooh, hello Engels, dat was hulle weg. My bad. We go to verse 13. And the Pharisees challenged him. Here you are appearing as your own witness. Your testimony is not valid. I mean, what kind? You've got a bunch of guys challenging the child of God to tell him you can't make the claim that you are the light of the world. Yeah, looking back, it's kind of ridiculous. But it goes on in that same chapter to verse 32 and 33. Actually, 31, sorry. And it says, to the Jews who had believed in him, Jesus said, if you hold on to my teaching, you really are my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you hold on to my teaching, you know, the book called the Bible, if you remain in or stay in my teaching, you really are my disciples. Then you will know the truth. You will see the truth for what it is. You will put the lies and the becauses and the reasons behind you. It's done. Tick them off, label them, and put them to bed. And you will start to believe the truth. And the truth is that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image. And he loves you so much more than you can fathom. You will see yourself in the way that God sees you. Imagine that. Imagine seeing yourself as God sees you. Do you think you'll look at yourself differently? I think you would. I would hope that God sees me a little bit differently than I see myself sometimes. Because we all sometimes fall a little bit short of where we're supposed to be going. We all sometimes make an excuse, which is reasonable sometimes. We all think of a reason. We all use a because sometimes for something that we've done. We fall short. After that, goes to verse 33. So Jesus is speaking to the Jews, and they answered him, we are Abraham's descendants, and we have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say that we shall be set free? This is actually quite funny if you think about it. So this is the Jews in Judea under a Roman governor telling Jesus that they're not slaves. It's also the same Israelites was held captive in Babylonia by the Assyrians, by the Egyptians. We've got another one here, the Persians. It's the same Israelites that in Deuteronomy, Moses tells them, be kind to your slave because you were slaves once as well. And they're telling Jesus, no, we're not slaves. We are the sons of Abram. Yeah. But it's easy to criticize them where we are standing 2,000 years later. But if we really look deep into what we are doing, you'll see that we are on the same WhatsApp group as this bunch of Jews. We make the same excuses. We are not slaves to sin. But that's the paper walls. Remember where I told you that sometimes we fall a little bit short? And I fall short, and I think that's why I can't be standing here this morning. I'm not equipped to do the message this morning. But that's not how God sees you. All God is asking you to do is to follow Him. So if we are 2,000 years later looking at the same sentence, we're going to paraphrase by Wim Skuban, we'll tell Jesus, I've never been a slave of anyone or anything. How can you say I'll be set free? Perhaps Jesus would reply to me and you in the same way that He replied to the Pharisees. So we go to verse 34 and 36. Very truly I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin. So falling short makes you believe that you're not equipped. So see that flimsy paper wall going up? It's going up right here, and it's stopping you from moving towards what God wants you to do. It's stopping you from living the life that God envisioned for you. It's holding you back. It's keeping you captive. So, we might just be. Okay. Then we can go to verse 36. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. So what Jesus is saying here is we need to allow Him to shed light, to set us free, and to light up the lies that we believe about ourselves, to see ourselves the way that God sees us, to look at other people the way God looks at them, to be able to see every human being as a part of God's creation. You will have power over your excuses if you are free. Remember I said that we can tick them off and label them and put them behind us. So we can move from one season to the next with leaving the bad excuses and the lies and the becauses. We're going to leave them behind. Because lies are excuses, are becauses. They're all the same thing. Again, same WhatsApp group. And that is how following Jesus makes you better at life and makes your life better. Okay. How following Jesus makes you better at life and makes life better for you. Because the manufactured excuses that you have are being put behind you and you're done with that. You've worked through it. So if you cannot see that you're wrong sometimes, you'll be wrong your entire life. Isn't it true that sometimes someone hurts us and they never actually apologize for it? They never own up to it. And we can see their flimsy paper walls holding them back in a self-centered, self-centered little box by themselves. We can see that, but they can't see it. Isn't that true sometimes that we believe people should have owned up to the way they hurt us? In the way that they've treated us or what? So see, if you cannot see that you're wrong, you will excuse your life away. You will excuse your bad habits away, your family, your health, and ultimately your peace. You can get to a place where you actually excuse your faith in God away. You will put a lot of reasons and becauses and lies in front of that. But again, we go back to John 8 verse 12. And it's something it's a truth that's been there for so long. I'm the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Do you know what it looks like in the 21st century to follow Jesus? I mean, practically. Do you know how that looks? Can you imagine how that looks? And as all things out of the Bible, it's uncannily simple. It's going to make you laugh. Simple. Forgiveness. Easy as you like. I will not sit back and suffer from bitterness inside. Jesus says, follow me. We are going through this flimsy paper wall. We're breaking it down. As I forgave you, you will forgive the people who've hurt you. And if we are going to follow Jesus, it means that we have to initiate reconciliation. It doesn't matter if that other person is sitting behind a flimsy wall of paper wall. It doesn't matter if that person is wrong or right. This is not a mission to find out who's right and who's wrong. This is a mission to love like Jesus loved us, to initiate reconciliation, to be the first one to take that step. Imagine if just you as one person sitting here today, will do that in your relationships. Imagine you doing it in your marriage, in your friendships, in your community. Imagine you'll be the person to first take that step and say, I'm initiating reconciliation. I'll be the first one to say, we need to fix this. We cannot hold on to these grudges and flimsy paper walls and lies and excuses. We have to forgive each other. Imagine if just you do it, and your best friend starts to do it as well, and your wife starts to do it as well. And that means your mother and your father and your brothers and your sisters and your friends and your whole circle starts to do that. Imagine what that life would look like. Imagine what that community would look like if we all initiate reconciliation first. And that is how you will be free. If you hold on to my teaching, you are really, really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Again, this is not where the story ends, with the invitation from Jesus to say, I will be the light of the world, and hold on to my teachings. You will be my disciples, and the disciples will set you free. This is not where the story ends. Because in verse 59, they picked up stones to stone him, the Son of God. They didn't believe everything he was saying. So if all of this sounds a little bit like preacher talk, I get it. I get it because the Pharisees picked up stones to stone Jesus. They also didn't believe it. Luckily, he slipped away because that was not the day he was meant to give his life. That would come a little bit later. And on that day, Jesus showed us that he is the light and the life of the entire world. So ask yourself this question. Is it possible you're missing out because you've walled yourself in? Is it possible that there's a flimsy paper wall between you and the life God envisioned you to have? Is it possible that you've got excuses masquerading as reasons and causes? Are you willing to admit that you already suspect this? That you are sitting behind a flimsy paper wall? Because there are excuses without fact and they are lies. So ask yourself this question this week and invite God in to break down the lies and these flimsy paper walls that you are sitting behind. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Thank you. Let's pray. Father, thank you very much for this morning. Thanks that I can stand here knowing that Moses wasn't equipped, but you equipped him. That any one of us standing or sitting here this morning can be your light and can follow you and can show the world what Jesus is. Thank you for everyone that rocked up here this morning, and may they have a week where they really feel your presence and where they will believe that they are free of the excuses, the lies, and the becauses that are holding them back from living the life that you envisioned for them. Thank you very much. Amen.
Amen.
Nice.
So I'm really glad. There's two things that I just want to highlight out there. And the first thing is I'm glad that you forgive me for giving you this talk, seeing as you preached it. And that's what forgiveness looks like, guys. But what I also want to stress something and something big that Wim shared with us. And he talked about not being able to see your own paper walls. And this is, and you probably figured this out because you're a clever bunch. One of the big ways to counter that, to stop you from having blind spots in that way, is community. Wim is one of many people who point out most of my paper walls because they can see it and I can't. And that's why it's so important to be part of community, not just to be a spectator, but to actively be a part of what God's doing in community. And that's why Starting Point and this stuff that we put out, it is just next steps for you to come into community, because that's where the real stuff, the real nitty-gritty stuff, the stuff like that we're talking about here, where it starts applying, that's where this stuff happen. So remember, if you want to sign up for Starting Point, out the door at the back, there will be someone there to help you, and you can just put your name down and we'll contact you. And then remember also, volunteer kickoff next week. If you've been coming for a while, or you're a volunteer already, or you're just curious, please join us. We'll contact you during the week as well. And then last but not least, I forgot to tell you, we're starting Inside Out for the year. It's our teenage environment. We're kicking off this year, 5 o'clock next door, in the vertrek next door. There's a lot of tables and stage and games and stuff there. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. So 5 o'clock till 6:30 tonight, yeah. As for the rest of you, have a fantastic week. We'll see you guys next week for part 4 and the final week